Alright, so we're gonna restart this again. So what we have here is a concept vehicle. When we say concept, what we mean is that it is running a concept hardware, which is a 4K screen right here, and it's a 720 screen right here. And they're both running a Qualcomm Snapdragon 820A chipset. And those pieces are fundamentally what the concept is. What is real is the Android N, which is basically the software that is running and powering these screens. So what we've done here is we've modified Android N, which is going to come as an open source relatively soon, to fundamentally enable partners to integrate Android easily and efficiently into the vehicles, right? And what you see here is the reference UI, if you will, or user experience that kind of Google provides, but we expect a lot of car manufacturers to actually modify this and make it fit into their vehicles. So if you start up the car, this is kind of the experience that you would kind of be greeted from the Google's perspective. You have easy access to microphone. You have easy access to things such as, for example, recent phone calls. If you were to travel to San Francisco airport, if you were to go to a restaurant, or if you're running low on gas, you might have to go find a gas station. So it is one of those things that is like, if you turn on your car and you get in, usually you want just to tap one or two things and just get going, right? So from here, for example, another thing that we also added was easy access to things such as navigation, communication, media, and some of the automotive features. Thing to keep in mind when what is different that you've seen maybe in the other vehicles so far is that with Android Auto, what happens is when you take your phone and you plug it in, it will project all the applications from the phone into the car. In this case, what we have is we have literally Android running in the car, so everything is actually embedded in here. And what that enables us to do is you get applications such as, for example, heating and cooling functionality, right? Because through CAN bus and through Android, we're basically talking directly to the car. So for example, we can turn on the cooling and we can turn it back on. You can direct which way it's going. You can do all kinds of fun stuff that now it's enabled because Android is actually integrated into the vehicle. So if we go quickly to navigation, so what we see here is that we see Google Maps, right? We've redone Google Maps a little bit in order to make it fit into the new experience here. And within this new experience, for example, you see the labels have been made a little bit larger for ease of glanceability. Also, the menu items are very large in order for glanceability. We also have features, for example, such as like 2.5D buildings, which makes it easier to kind of navigate. And I'm going to quickly go to San Francisco just to kind of showcase some of that. And you can see, obviously, touch works because it's a touch screen. So if we tilt this just a little bit and find a nice area in San Francisco, you see that, for example, a lot of 2.5D buildings will kind of pop up, and it just allows just users to easily and nicely navigate in the different cities and different areas. On the top, what we have is we see the microphone stays in place. You still have access to heating and cooling, and you also have, for example, ability to still control music. If you were to navigate somewhere, there's a couple of different things that will happen. So, if we were to navigate here, there's a few things that will happen right now. It's like one, and then we'll see. So for example, what we see here is that in the cluster now, navigation becomes front and center. And the reason why it becomes front and center is while you're driving, you want the user to focus on the road and focus on what is relevant, which is, in this case, navigation. Also, if you go to different areas, so for example, if we were to go to phone call, we see the navigation stays front and center on the top half of the screen, and the music is always available. And this kind of gets persistent as you go across. We see that navigation stays here, you can tap, and you can quickly get back into the navigation, and just kind of gives you ability to easily access any functionality at any time. If you were to make a phone call to somebody really quickly, we can see that again, cluster gets updated. It's showing you that you have, you're talking to Dylan in this case. Going to come up. You can control at this point using the steering wheel controls and a canvas. You can control actually the volume of it. And also if you go to different facets, again, as I was talking about, is all of the things that are active and relevant are showing up on top in this case. So quickly you can tap here, it will end the phone call. And the way we're doing the phone calls right now is that this is actually integrated through Bluetooth with your phone. A lot of people are still today going to bring their phone, their Bluetooth. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't embed the SIM, but most people are still going to have their phone number and SIM attached to the actual phone. Lastly, what we have is we also have applications such as all the ones that you would find in Android Auto as well. So Pocket Cast, Spotify, Google Play Music, Pandora, all of these applications are actually installed into the vehicle. And the nice thing is that all of these third-party developers did not have to actually do any extra work to make them work in this car as well, even though it is embedded. So if you press play, it will quickly show you that it's starting to play this. If you increase the volume, you can hear it actually play, so it's integrated nicely with the rest of the audio system. If we were to pick something else like Spotify, and we were to play Spotify, we see that it just quickly transitions from that. So, and it's really nice because there was zero work that the developers have to do, and this just makes it all work. It doesn't matter whether it's embedded or projected. So overall, that kind of summarizes some of the major functionality that we have in the car. Last facet is where we want overall vehicle manufacturers to kind of develop their own things. This, for example, is just a development tool that we use for testing some of the vehicle features. So, I mean, and obviously, because you can see, this is not a UI necessarily that's very pretty, because again, vehicle manufacturers might do their own things to make things look different, to customize them into the vehicle, to make them look cool and different. So, so for example, if I were to press one of the buttons, it's going to open up a window. So if I do this, it opens the window, which is kind of cool. If you press it back up, it's going to close the window, which is kind of nice. But again, this is not necessarily, it's literally one of our engineers was working on it and kind of showcases some of the stuff that you can do, right? So, and again, if you were to end navigation and quickly does this, and we'll just go back to the music. Another thing to kind of just showcase very quickly is some of the steering wheel buttons. So we didn't talk about voice interactions, but obviously this is fully voice enabled, and we use microphones that are located here and here. So if I do a voice command such as, I don't know, how tall is Barack Obama?
1 inch tall.
So we can see, I mean, it's the same functionality you would find on the phone. There's nothing different. If you were to navigate somewhere, navigate to SFO.
Okay, San Francisco International Airport. Here we go.
I mean, these are all the types of things, and we see navigation is going to kick off, it's going to get going. So it's a fully integrated system. Obviously, everything is working nicely in the vehicle. I mean, and again, we're expecting a lot of the partners to actually take what we've developed here and customize it to make it look and feel into the cars that it will be selling.
Cool. How do you reconcile with the hardware? You got Qualcomm as a hardware partner, and the 820A CPU. Most consumer grade hardware lasts only a few years before it starts to degrade significantly. Most people hold on to their cars nowadays 7 to 10 years on average. So, you know, how robust is this hardware, and is it going to be able to keep up with by the time we're to Android XYZ, you know,
so
in 7,
there's a couple of
10.
different things we're exploring on. It's a great question, right? Like, one is, if you open this up, this is actually modular hardware. So as you see this box right here, you can basically take this box and it contains Wi-Fi, it contains memory. It's almost like your phone without a screen, right?
So you could like replace the
exactly,
insides,
right?
And that's one way to keep the hardware fresh.
It's one way to keep the hardware fresh, right? Because usually screens is not where the problems are. It's usually, you know, for, let's say in 5 years, 5G comes along, and suddenly everybody goes, well, how do we deal with 5G? This enables some of the partners to do this, but ultimately, hardware is something that our partners have to decide on. From our perspective, we're just enabling them with software, and you know, and then from there, there's going to be a lot of, whether it be Qualcomm, whether it be NVIDIA, whether it be other partners, they're going to come up with different ways to deal with it.
But again, you say like in a vehicle like a Maserati, like this is, obviously Maserati's not going to spare any expense in insuring that. But next door to us is a Honda Civic, so it goes to show then what is Google's commitment to the bargain manufacturers, or I should say the more affordable OEMs that are not going to be able to, you know, refresh hardware every 2 years necessarily.
Yeah, it's, I mean, from Google's perspective, is our goal is to make sure that whatever version of Android we release, it continues to work well, right? It is, you know, we're working obviously with a lot of the, I would say, hardware manufacturers to provide different options for the partners, such as removable hardware and other things. But at the end of the day, every partner, when it comes down to deciding on their hardware, is going to have to make their own choice. And, you know, this is one of those decisions that every partner is going to have to consider, as you mentioned, a lot of different variables. And we really don't have a stance on it. Our goal is to provide options and to provide software, and it's up to them to go from there.
Excellent. Great. That's a great demo. Thanks very much.
Oh, no problem.
This is the Android in-car concept, and we're in a brand new Maserati, packing a Qualcomm Snapdragon. Pretty sharpish.